Hey everybody, it's Dak here from the Ed Boys, and welcome to my 1 to 99 prayer guide. This won't be a typical 1 to 99 guide where I tell you which method to use at which levels. Prayer is a little bit different to train, since most training methods don't have like a prayer level requirement. You do need 70 prayer to use Superior Dragon Bones at all, and you need 30 prayer to be able to use the Libation Bowl with any types of bones. But other than those, really any method can be done from 1 to 99. So for this guide, I'm going to discuss all of the methods that I consider viable, and we'll discuss the pros, the cons, and the XP rates and costs for each of them. In this video, we'll start with some quests that you can complete for early prayer training, which is especially nice for Iron Men accounts. We'll then talk about some items like the Bone Crusher and the Zealot Robes, which are very nice for prayer gains. We'll then go over the actual methods, which will include using bones on a Gilded Altar or the Chaos Altar. We've got the Bone Shards method at the Libation Bowl, which is the Varlamore prayer update. We've got Ensouled Heads, which are a nice low intensity and cost efficient way to train prayer. And then we'll talk about Demonic Ashes and the Demonic Offering spell that you can use to train your prayer with. As always, there should be chapters on your timeline to skip to any part that you need. There are a few quests that you can complete to get some solid early prayer XP. It's not a ton of XP per quest in the long run, but it does help skip those early levels. The Restless Ghost gives you 1,125 XP, and Priest in Peril gives you 1,406, which together jumps you from 1 to 15 prayer. Ghosts Ahoy and Making History require completing the previous two quests, and they'll give you another combined 3.4k XP, which would jump you from 15 to 22. There's also a mini quest called His Faithful Servants. This does require you to complete one Barrow's Run, which is a lot easier if you already have overhead prayers, but if you power your way through it with food instead, you're going to get 20k prayer XP, which would jump you to 36 prayer, including the other 5 quests we listed off. Those are the main quests that I would knock out for prayer XP early, but I have left a link to the wiki's full quest list for prayer XP in the description. Overall, prayer is generally a skill that you're going to lose money to train, but it's very worth having a high prayer level for high level PVM stuff. But these next couple items can help you save a little bit of money on your prayer journey. The Bone Crusher is an item obtained from completing the hard Mauritania Diary. It is charged with Ecto tokens, and if you have it in your Envy when you kill a monster that drops bones, it'll automatically bury those bones for 50% of the XP you normally would have gotten. You do get 100% XP if you complete the Elite Mauritania Diaries. This is great to have on you while you're grinding like Slayer tasks or even completing Hunter contracts. Not every monster drops bones though, so there's a couple items that work similar. The Ash Sanctifier can be obtained from the hard Kabos and Koren diaries. This can be charged with death runes, 10 charges per rune, and it'll automatically scatter the ashes that monsters drop for 50% XP. Again, you'll get 100% XP if you complete the Elite diaries for this one. And the Ectoplasmator is a reward from Soul Wars, requiring 40 prayer to use. When you kill spectral creatures, ghosts in other words, you're gonna get some prayer XP if you have one of these in your inventory. It'll be 20% of the monster's max health. This works on all sorts of ghosts like Aberrant Specters, Banshees, even the Barrows Brothers, and Phantom Muspa. The Zealot Robes are a reward you can receive from burning Shade Remains. When you burn Urium Remains, you get golden keys, and those gold keys can be used to loot some pretty high-level chests in the Shade Catacombs. This does require 80 fire making, and they are pretty rare overall, so it's not an easy set to obtain necessarily, but it can be very helpful for your prayer gains. Each piece of the robes gives a chance to save some bones or an ensouled head while you're training prayer, a total of a 5% chance to save resources when you're wearing the full set. This works for burying bones, using them on a Gilded or Chaos Altar, using bone meal on the Ectofunctus, sacrificing bone shards to the Libation Bowl, and reanimating Ensouled Heads. 5% is not a huge difference, but it does save a little bit of money, which is pretty nice if you do have the set. You don't have to go out of your way to get this for prayer training, to be fair. I don't have my Zealot Robes. Let's get into the actual prayer training. For our first training method, we're going to be using bones. Burying bones gives pretty weak prayer XP, and it's not too bad while you're grinding Slayer, and using the Bone Crusher to auto bury is pretty nice if you weren't going to pick them up anyway. But if you buy bones just to bury them, it's actually very expensive to do that. Instead, you can use them on an altar in a player-owned home for a lot more XP. The highest level altar is a Gilded Altar, which does require 70 construction to make, and you also need to build some incense burners and keep them lit for max XP, but you can just use somebody else's house in World 330 where there's always multiple max houses available to use, unless you're an Iron Man, of course. Using bones on a Gilded Altar with both burners lit is going to give you 3.5 times the XP you normally would get if you buried them. If you use bones on the altar, your character does automatically do like one full inventory, one at a time, but you can also use each bone on the altar to go significantly faster. If you're using a menu entry swapper plugin, you can hold shift and then right click on some of the bones, and you can change your left click setting to use, making this a lot easier so you don't have to like right click and use the bones. You can also go to your in-game settings, and under game client layout, if you set it to resizable modern layout, you can then hold your alt key and then click and drag around your interface, including putting the the inventory and a much easier spot for using your bones on the altar. If you're using the house portal in Remington, it's very easy to unnote bones from Feel, which is the guy who lives south of the portal in this little building here. He's going to charge you 5 GP per bone, so you just need to bring a little bit of money with you. There are a lot of different types of bones in the game. Higher tier bones give more XP a piece, but they tend to cost a lot more money per XP. At the time of making this video, I did find that worm bones were in a very nice sweet spot for getting good XP an hour while not breaking the bank. If you are manually using bones on the altar, you can get up to 2,500 bones an hour, which would peak over a mil XP an hour if you're using superior bones. That's very click intensive, also very expensive using superior bones, so don't expect a mil XP an hour necessarily. Getting 300k to 500k XP an hour using the Gilded Altar tends to be a reasonable pace in my opinion. It is likely to cost you more than 10 GP per XP overall though, unless you're using pretty low level bones. Another altar that you can use bones on would be the Chaos Altar. This is located deep in the wilderness at the Chaos Temple, so it is a lot more dangerous than using bones on a Gilded Altar. It's not too far from the Wilderness Obelisk at level 44 wildy, so players with the hard wildy diaries can teleport to the Corp Lair or the Ferox Enclave and then use the obelisk nearby to teleport out there. I like using the Gorok teleport, which takes you basically right out to that obelisk. The spell is on the ancient spellbook, but you can also buy teletabs from the Grand Exchange. The Burning Amulet teleport out to the lava maze is not a bad option either. Be careful of the Chaos Fanatic out there though. You do get 3.5 times XP using bones on this altar, just like the Gilded Altar, as long as the Gilded Altar had both incenses burning. But there's also a 50% chance to save a bone instead of using it at the Chaos Altar while still getting prayer XP. Since you can keep saving the same bone multiple times over and over, this adds up to pretty much doubling the bones that you use on it, so it's basically 7 times XP for each bone, making it cheaper GP per XP overall, but slower XP an hour as well when you factor in the fact that it's the wilderness and it's higher risk. There's an NPC right outside that'll unnote your bones for 50 GP a piece. It's still dangerous to bring a ton of bones with you, so I like to bring an inventory of bones and then one more invi of noted bones, so it's kind of like 2 invis per trip. You're much better off manually using the bones quickly on the altar instead of letting your player auto use them. In general, that's a good idea, but out here you want to spend less time in the wilderness. Again, if you have the menu entry swapper plugin, you can hold shift and then right click on your bones, and then you can set the left click option to use so that you can use the bones on the altar without having to right click them. Also, in your in-game settings, you can change your game client layout to resizable modern layout, and then you can hold your alt key and click and drag the inventory around, putting it in a much easier spot for you to keep using your bones on the altar. Also, while we are in the settings, I do suggest having this PK skull prevention box checked. It's not like you're risking much if you're bringing like no armor and just some bones and whatnot, but it's better safe than sorry. Once I am out of bones, I just spam click on the Wine of Zamrak to KO me, sending me back to the bank. It's not a bad idea to just bring a rock cake or a strange device from Dragon Slayer 2, which can be a lot quicker to damage yourself down to low health, and then just use the Zami Wine to do the final hit. You could also spend 5 mil to change your respawn point to either the Ferox Enclave or Edgeville, making the bank trip quicker, but it's not really needed overall. If you're respawning in Ludbridge, you're a little bit slower XP an hour, but you're getting the job done. I don't bring that many bones, so if a PKer shows up, I'm really not risking that much overall, which really is key to any wilderness gains. If you just don't risk what you're not willing to lose, you're not gonna have a problem out there. It is smart to be using Protect Magic and your highest level offensive mage prayer the whole time that you're here. You can restore your prayer points at the altar that you're using bones on, so you're not gonna run out of prayer points. If a PKer does show up and you don't manage to log out before they attack you, you're kind of screwed unless you brought some tank gear or some healing supplies with you. Gear with a high magic bonus can be helpful for stopping freezes from a PKer, and then items like the Din's Bulwark can be very nice for tanking PKer damage. If you're not risking that many bones though, you'll find that it's really not worth the hassle to fight back. The XP an hour is a little bit slower here since you're likely banking a bit and you could get PK'd, and it's going to slow you down as well, but it's still very fast XP an hour overall. Prayer is just a quick skill to train, so even the slower methods really aren't slow. You get a lot more XP per bone on average using the Chaos Altar, but it is a little bit more frustrating when sometimes you lose an inventory of bones. So overall, I'm a fan of using my bones on the newer prayer method. Let's talk about the Varlamore prayer method, the Libation Bowl. This bowl is located in Rallis' Rise, which is the western part of Varlamore. Here's a look at the location of the important things we'll be using for this method. Right in the middle here is the Quetzal Transport, which is pre-built. I use the Quetzal not only to get up to the Teomat, but I also travel to the Hunter's Guild for banking. Down here is the Exposed Altar, which you can bless your bones and your wines at. We'll talk about that in a little bit. In this building to the east, there is a prayer altar. It doesn't look like a traditional altar, but you're going to need to use it to restore your prayer points while you're training. And then this building up north actually has the Libation Bowl in it, and this is where you're going to be getting your prayer XP. To get prayer XP at this bowl, you will need bone shards and blessed jugs of wine. There's a few different ways to get bone shards. They can be broken down from sun-kissed bones, which can be obtained from Moon's Apparel and Hunter's Rumors. You can break down blessed bone statuettes, which are obtained from stealing valuables from the wealthy citizens in Varlamore. You can also just mine for blessed bone shards in the southwestern part of Camtorum. It's pretty low intensity and gives decent mining XP as well, which is pretty nice. You can also just turn any bones into bone shards as well. If you take bones to the exposed altar, the same altar that you will be blessing your wines at, you can bless these bones, and then if you use a chisel on them, it breaks them down into blessed bone shards. You can just click one blessed bone and your character slowly does the envy, but it is a lot faster to keep clicking on the chisel and then on the bones and manually sending it. This NPC here, Virilis, they will unnote bones for you, 10 GP per bone, so you can just bring a little bit of cash, a chisel, and a stack of noted bones, and turn all of your bones into bone shards here without having to hit up the bank. Higher tier bones are going to give you a lot more bone shards each. Bone shards are worth 5 prayer XP apiece, or 6 prayer XP if you're using Sunfire wines, which adds up to a pretty nice bonus. Now, what about jugs of wine? The unblessed wines can be bought from the Grand Exchange, and for Iron Men, you can buy them from the bar here in Camtorum, which is the city beneath Rallis' Rise. Before you bless these wines, you can add Sunfire splinters to them to get more XP per bone shard. It's 2 splinters per wine, so it adds a little bit of money, but overall it is worth it. Just make sure if you're going to add the splinters, you add them before you bless the wines. To bless your wines, you have to take them to the exposed altar, the south part of Rallis' Rise, same place that we were blessing the bones. You cannot bank any blessed wines though, so you don't want to do this until you have your bone shards ready. If you bless an envy of wines, like, you got to use them now or drop them. Once you have bone shards and blessed wine jugs, Sunfire or not, make your way up to the Libation Bowl. You're not going to get a full envy done before you run out of prayer points though. Each time that you're getting XP, you're using up 2 prayer points, but there is an altar in a building south of you that you can restore prayer from, so it's pretty quick. Each jug of wine is enough for 400 bone shards, so you can get a little over 10,000 bone shards per inventory of wines. The XP rates that you get from the Libation Bowl are technically very good if you already have your bone shards and wines ready. If you include the time required to collect them all before you get your XP, the method is slower than using bones on a Gilded Altar or Chaos Altar, but the benefit is getting more XP per bone, so overall it's going to cost less money. It's still not cheap by any means if you're just buying bones in the Grand Exchange and going to like 99 prayer, but it's more cost efficient than a lot of other bone methods while still being good overall XP. This method is an extreme thumbs up for Iron Men or players who've been grinding other Varlamore activities and just happen to have bone shards that they need to use. Overall, the Libation Bowl is a better method for getting more XP per bone than using the Ectofunctus in my opinion, so we will not be talking about the Ectofunctus in this video. The next method we have is Ensouled Heads. A lot of the mobs you fight in the game can drop an Ensouled Head, which can be reanimated using one of 4 reanimate spells on the Arceus spellbook. The tier of spell depends on what type of Ensouled Head you're trying to use. Higher tier heads give more prayer XP, but they also require a higher magic level to be able to use them. The runes required to keep using the reanimate spell does add a little bit of money to the process, but it's not that much GP added, and it's nice to get some magic XP while you're at it as well. When you kill a reanimated monster, you're going to get some prayer XP. Generally, this is done near the Dark Altar in Arceus. You can reanimate an Ensouled Head if you get it as a drop yourself and then you use the spell near the area that you killed the monster, but if you're buying Ensouled Heads, you're going to have to go to the Dark Altar. The easiest and most realistic way to get there is the Fairy Ring code CIS. You can just use the Fairy Ring to bank in Xanris or the Shazian Bank, which is close to code DJR. Personally, I just send the bank in Xanris, to be honest. You're also going to need to bring runes to cast the reanimate spell. I have blood runes, nature runes, and soul runes for the expert reanimate, since I am using Ensouled Bloodveld heads in these clips. The reanimated monsters are pretty weak, but it's still a good idea to bring some good DPS with you. Like, the faster you're killing them, the quicker you're getting that XP. I don't suggest bringing a weapon that requires charges, like a blowpipe. That's just going to add to the cost, and you're not getting anything back other than the prayer XP, so you're just eating that extra money. But something like a whip, a dragon simi, even a rune scimitar gets the job done. Ensouled Heads are fairly slow XP an hour compared to other prayer methods. You can still get like 200 to 300k XP an hour overall with the higher level heads, so it's not that it's really slow, it's just slower than other prayer methods. It is a lot more cost efficient though. The highest level heads would be Ensouled Dragon Heads, and they're currently around 6.8 GP per XP, which is almost the same as the 6.7 GP in XP it was costing me to use Worm Bones on the Chaos Altar, and that's as long as you don't get PK'd for any of those bones. I'm a big fan of Ensouled Heads for prayer XP. In general, it's not a bad idea for training skills to go for faster, more expensive levels. levels and then use the time saved to make the money back. In this case though, Ensouled Heads are still solid XP an hour while saving a lot of money. So you're not saving like a ton of hours if you go for faster prayer methods, especially if you're going like to 70, maybe 80 prayer. Ensouled Heads have been my go-to prayer training method for a while now. Let's talk about demonic ashes. Many demons drop ashes which can be scattered into the wind for prayer XP. These same ashes can be automatically scattered with the Ash Sanctifier, as we mentioned earlier in the video. There's also a spell in the Arceus spellbook called Demonic Offering, which will scatter up to 3 ashes for 3 times the normal XP you would have gotten per ash. This does require 84 magic and completing a Kingdom Divided quest. You also restore some prayer points when you use the spell, so it's not a bad option to bring Soul Runes and Wrath Runes on a Demon Slayer task and then use this spell for more prayer XP and prayer points during the task. Demonic Offering also makes buying ashes for prayer training a lot more viable. At the moment, using the spell with Malicious Ashes is right around 6.8 GP per XP, which is similar to the rate we were talking about from Ensouled Dragon Heads. Plus, you get around 100k magic XP per hour as a bonus. It requires a high magic level and a fairly long quest to unlock the spell, but if you do have these requirements, this is a very good method for training prayer and getting some magic XP. Thank you for watching my prayer guide, everybody. This is not every method possible of getting prayer XP, like the Ectofunctus that we passed over thanks to the Libation Bowl, but these are the methods that I would use to train my prayer at any level. The Ensouled Heads is definitely my go-to method, the prayer training method that I've used the most overall, but for you, deciding what method you want to use, a lot of that depends on how much money you are willing to spend, or maybe whether or not you're an Iron Man. If you enjoyed the video or you just got some useful information out of it, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and best of luck on your prayer grind.